So Miles, the Regent meeting is well behind schedule, so I think we'll be able to hang in this meeting.
Cool.
The usual double booked. Whatever.
Don't know how you do it, man.
All right. Why don't we get started? As usual, people will come and go over the course of the hour or so that we've allocated for the meeting. As our special guest today, we have Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Cronin. Many of you have met him before, either in person or by Zoom or through various media accounts. A little background about him. Kevin Cronin is the PTA commander prior to his arrival in Hawaii. He served at the NATO Special Operations Headquarters in Belgium as the director of NSHQ Ops and Coordination Center. He was commissioned as an infantry officer in the U.S. Army upon graduation from the U.S. Military Academy in 2003. In 2008, following graduation from Special Forces qualification course at Fort Bragg, he was assigned as a Special Forces officer. He served in a variety of assignments ranging from tactical to strategic, including deployments in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and deployments in Qatar, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. This I did not know while I was reading your bio. You hold a master's degree in international public policy with a concentration in strategic studies from Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, and is a former term member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Originally from Rowlton, Connecticut, Kevin resides now in Miami, of course, married with former Ann Gilman of San Diego, California, and they have one beautiful daughter, Anna. As I recall, was born within weeks of your arrival in Hawaii, so that may have made the touchdown fun. And she's a Foreign Service officer. I guess you met her in the State Department. So that's a tiny fraction of the bio that's posted about our guests today. And given the, was kind of joking with Kevin when we were up at PTA, I felt like we were both kind of on the endangered species list between Mauna Kea and PTA. So let's commiserate together and get the word out about the good work that's going on at PTA. And Kevin, so this is basically however you like to spend the first 20, 30 minutes presentation about where you're at. I'm sure you're going to focus on the whole lease renewal matter, but totally up to you. And then we'll have this informal roundtable from there. So over to you.
Okay, Doug, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me here and providing me an opportunity to provide an update on PTA and all the great things that PTA does day in and day out, and the team members of PTA do day in and day out for both, the security of our nation, but also as good members of our community. And then I'll provide an update on where we are in the process for the state lease parcel. So many of you have heard this already, but we'll all start. Been in the seat for 11 months now, and it's an incredible honor to serve in this capacity, because PTA's mission, the mission here, the 230 team members who provide support to the 13,000 men and women of our nation's armed forces who come here to train. They provide the support that allows them to have the best training possible when they come here. And that training is very important because, as Miles was saying in the beginning, that allows those men and women to achieve the highest levels of readiness, to be as prepared as possible if they're called into harm's way. And that is it's a obligation on two fronts. It's an operational imperative. We want our nation's military to be as prepared as possible. So we deter potential adversaries, but if deterrence fails, we win. And then it's also a sacred obligation. If you volunteer to serve our nation, which comes with that the chance that you'll be called into harm's way, the military must do everything possible to make sure you're as prepared as possible. That's kind of a contract with our volunteers. And That's what PTA does for our nation's land forces in Hawaii, but also in the broader Pacific Basin region. And it's very special for me because short, in my opinion, short of leading our nation's men and women in combat, there's no other higher calling than ensuring that those men and women are as prepared as possible for combat. It's a very noble and worthy cause, and I'm proud of it, and the 230 team members who support that mission day in and day out. The vast majority of them, civilians who are, live in our communities, and their children go to school in our communities, and they've grown up here and retired here, and very much part of our community. So that's what PTA does. We provide the area for our nation's men and women to achieve the highest levels of readiness. And PTA is really well suited in that regard because the size allows for a scale and complexity of training that uniquely replicates the conditions of combat. And that's the gold standard for training, to as closely as possible replicate the conditions of combat in training environment. So when our nation's men and women find themselves in combat, they're as prepared as possible. And so they can maneuver on the ground and incorporate fires into that to support that maneuver. And they train on that here is just one example. It's also a great area because its strategic location in Hawaii allows for the forces that are in Hawaii to not have to go all the way back to the mainland, which is where you'd have to go if PTA wasn't here, and spend all that time and resources shipping all their equipment and personnel back to the mainland to conduct a training where they need to conduct the highest levels of readiness. And so it saves time and money not having to do that. And it also keeps our forces and their equipment forward in the region, which is has important deterrent value, and allows them to forward posture with allies and nations even farther into the Pacific region. We also are home for training for the Hawaii Army National Guard. Our citizen soldiers, they do their weekend training up here regularly, and they do their 2 weeks a month or two weeks annual training here at PTA in August. And again, it allows them to conduct that great training, but also stay closer to home and spend less time away from their families. So that's PTA's mission, providing readiness for our land forces in the Pacific region. A key component of that mission is community. As a military, we are part of the community. We are not a separate entity in and of itself. It's very important to maintain good ties with the community, because you can't, not good to ever good to have caste systems where you have, that those are separate. And ultimately, it's in the community's name that we serve and fight. So it's always very important to maintain those close ties. Even more important here in Hawaii and on Hawaii Island because of the unique sensitivities and environment here. So we go through great lengths to maintain good ties with the community. So I'll give a couple examples of that. All the soldiers who come here to train must get out in the community with various partners and provide community outreach, give back events, but also, it's designed to learn about Hawaii. Those events are designed to learn about Hawaii and the rich tradition and culture here. So there's a lot of paddling, canoe club activities, traditional Paniolo activities, opportunities to interact with the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, Hawaii National Guard Youth Challenge Academy, our American Red Cross partners. So the soldiers who come here to train, and they take it very seriously. It's very important to them as well. We also are the first responders for the Saddle region. So from the intersection of DKI Highway and Mamalahoa Highway, all the way to mile marker 11 towards Hilo and the summit of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, we have a mutual aid agreement with the county where we'll be the first responders in the event of an incident. And what that does is allow us for a quicker response time, a quicker application of emergency medical care, and which increases the likelihood of survival in the event of a catastrophic incident. And then it allows other first responders to stay focused in their population centers and maintain resources there to respond to emergencies. And we regularly respond to vehicle accidents on Saddle Road, stranded hikers on the Manas, and last summer responded to multiple wildfires as part of a comprehensive community effort where we were able to apply both our fire department, emergency first responders, and the tools that they have, but also our bulldozers that we use here to support our training, and then helicopters from Oahu that flew all the way over from Oahu with their massive water buckets to assist in dropping water on the fires to arrest the spread of the fire and allow the firefighters on the ground and the bulldozers operators on the ground to develop fire breaks to ultimately stop the fire. Our helicopters, I think the county helicopter bucket is about 100 gallons, 150 gallons maybe. The Blackhawk helicopter is 700 gallons, and the Chinook helicopter is 2,300 gallons. So our bucket drops definitely help in the comprehensive fight against wildfires. And we've been doing everything possible to prepare for this upcoming extreme wildfire season. Hopefully we don't see any fires like we did last summer, but we've been working hard with the community to be as prepared as possible if that happens. And next week, we're gonna host another basic wildland fire management class. This is the fourth one that we've done, and we invite first responders from throughout the community to participate in that training so we can all get better together. And that includes Hawaii County Fire, Hawaii Volunteers, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, NGOs. We bring them all in to help increase our skills and develop our relationships. Another thing that we do as part of the community, and it's a key component of our mission here, is we've got extremely robust environmental stewardship team. So it's over 30 individuals at a cost of about $4 million annually that engage in stewardship of our cultural resources here located on PTA and our natural resources. So there's over 1,200 cultural and archaeological sites that the team has surveyed and maintains protection of, and they continue to survey to identify additional sites, and then maintain protection of those sites for study and for posterity. And then the natural resources team is steward for 26 threatened and endangered species, 20 plant species, and 6 animal species, and active, very robust protection efforts for those species. There's a greenhouse. We conduct outplanting. We develop fire breaks, which proved to be very beneficial in last summer's fires, and protected in the Mana Road fire, protected threatened and endangered species that are located on 2 of our pools in the Keemuku maneuver area north towards Waimea. And we have 40 miles of ungulate exclusion fences, which protect 40,000 acres of land from goats and pigs and other ungulates. And it's protecting those threatened and endangered species and allowed those species and even trees like Mamane and Ohia and Nyaeo to thrive and blossom. And then also helps, it protects the Ohia from the spread of rapid Ohia death. And then we have a hunting program where we do hunts about two weekends per month to help keep that ungulate population down as well. And that hunting program is a program with the community where local hunters can sign up and hunt up at PTA. And then we also have a very robust recycling program where we divert north of 54% of the refuse that's produced here at PTA away from county landfills. It's a really incredible program. For comparison, I think Hawaii counties is about 20%, or maybe 14%, but it's an incredible program. And the recycling program, the environmental program, the leads there, the team members there, it's very important for them to have strong relationships with their counterparts in the community, to share best practices, share ideas, and figure out ways where we can all get better together and just do good work. We're a team of teams here at PTA. The military's, in my opinion, the greatest team out there. And now on this island, we're all in this together. We're a team of teams on this island, and it's very important for us to be a good member of the Hawaii Island team. And then I will transition to an update on the state lease land. So PTA is the total size of PTA is 133,000 acres, or 210 square miles. For comparison, that is about the size of Guam, almost exactly the size of Guam, or 35% of the size of Oahu. If you laid PTA on top of Oahu, from south to north, it would stretch from Pearl City to the North Shore. And it's, it's that size for a reason, and it's able to facilitate that large scale training exercises. 23,000 acres of PTA was leased from the state in 1964 for a 65-year lease. That expires in August of 2029. The Army initiated the process called Army Training Land Retention Process in 2020 to analyze retaining that parcel of land. That parcel of land is very important. I talk about the importance of the mission, importance of PTA, the mission of PTA to our men and women who serve, which goes, you can draw the line directly to the top of how it contributes to our national security strategy in the region. So contributes to readiness, which contributes to deterrence, our deterrence posture in the region, which, because deterrence is made up of capability and willingness to impose costs. And the key component of capability is readiness, which our adversaries are always assessing and always looking, if they sense vulnerability or weakness, always looking to capitalize on that. And then our deterrent, the better our deterrence is, the better our overall security posture in the region is, because in my opinion, peace through strength, the stronger you are, the more deterrent value you have, and it makes conflict less likely. Now, so that's PTA, how PTA contributes to security posture in the region. Now, the state lease land contributes to that PTA, to that mission, is a lot of the key training components that support that training is located on the lease land parcel. There's the battle area complex where you can practice maneuver and incorporating live fire from aircraft into that maneuver, which is exactly how we fight in combat. So you got to train on it before you get to combat. And the Apache gunships that Doug was able to see 2 days ago, use that battle area complex to train. It's a digitized gunnery range, so they can see how they shot, see how they scored, and can continue to get better. And here's the opportunity where those young pilots and those young leaders maneuver on the ground can practice only here if they're stationed in Hawaii. We have 79 firing points to support that training on the state leased land. We have a drone airstrip where we regularly practice drone operations, which is an important component of the character of conflict that we find ourselves in now. So you got to train on it. And we have our ammunition supply point, which is essentially our bunkers, which we store our ammunition, is located on the state leased land. And then where the state leased land is located within PTA, it's basically the connective tissue of PTA. It's right in the middle. So where I'm sitting right now in the cantonment area next to the Quonset huts is within the state leased land. The airfield is within the state leased land. The state leased land connects the eastern range complexes to the western range complexes and connects those range complexes to the Keimuku maneuver area. So it's critical to our mission here. Now, as part of the Army training land retention process, we abide by all applicable federal and state regulatory guidelines. And so we have to conduct an environmental impact statement, which I know, you all are very familiar with. So our senior decision makers, to ensure that our senior decision makers analyze the totality of environmental impacts based on whatever decision is in their decision-making process. So we started this in August, September of 2020 with a public scoping, with a scoping public comment period. And then that moved into the drafting of the environmental impact statement. And now we're in the phase where that draft environmental impact statement has been released to the public for a 60-day public comment period, where the public can review the environmental impact statement and then provide feedback on that. That feedback will be analyzed, and then a final environmental impact statement will be produced, which will then contribute to the record of decision that will ultimately be made by senior decision makers. So it's very important process, very important to us that we follow the process, and very important, as part of the community, as community members, that the community has an opportunity to comment and take part in that process. So that's where we are right now. We've got about a little less than 3 weeks left in that 60-day public comment period. I'll close quickly. So separate from the public comment period, definitely welcome public comments from across the stakeholder spectrum. It's important to the process, but also definitely outside of that, definitely welcome and encourage your support for PTA, as people who know the importance of the mission of PTA, and then all the good things that we do day in and day out. Whether that's on spreading the word through word of mouth, or on social media, or liking PTA's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts. Every little bit counts, because as much as we try to get the message out and the good news out, it's a never-ending journey. It's always it's an inherent challenge, and it's even being in the military makes it even more challenging. So the more that we can all kind of help spread the good news about the first responders, the Hawaii Army National Guard, the greenhouse, the recycling program, the community give back events, every little bit makes a difference, because we all know, and I fully recognize it's a very sensitive time here, and we want to be good members of the community, but we've got a very important mission here and we want to do everything we can to be able to continue that mission. So with that, I hope that was helpful, and I'll just pause there and open it up to any questions or comments. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll start. Can you outline the timeline going forward? 3 weeks left on the comment period for you guys. Sort of walk us through the steps in the whole renewal process.
So I'm not sure if I can. There's we've got we've got the Corps of Engineers as our project manager, and then we've got the drafting of the EIS through a contractor, G70. I'm not sure if I could share the timeline, but I'll check with
just curious.
Yeah.
Front center for me with the Mauna Kea situation. I'm always thinking about the timeline and
I know that
needs to be done by when.
I'll check to see if I can share. I just careful not, speak out of turn.
Other questions?
I would say just a comment, as a drill sergeant for many years and starting at the beginning and seeing everything to the end and all the different things that I've done around the United States with all the different bases and community interactions. I've never seen the back end of how all this works until now, but I think we have a good thing going here. I think we learned a lot in the past years of what's going on in foreign wars, and we definitely never want to have anything in our own turf, and keeping this here and keeping it alive is a good thing for everybody.
Hey, Doug. Oh, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Colonel.
No, sorry, I was just going to say thank you. Please go ahead.
So, Doug, and this might go to Pōhakuloa PTA as well, but one of the challenges in these lease renewals is that we're going to have a new administration that's going to be dealing with this. I don't know how you can maybe have that discussion once they come into office, but I can give you a horror story for the last 8 years on a lease assignment that we've been going through that is just so manini, it's just ridiculous. But if it's possible to work with the new chair of DLNR to have an assigned principal AG to you folks' lease renewals. Right now, they do it as a pool. And I can tell you, we've had people come out with pregnancies and what have you. And when the review process goes in and you don't have the same person, the opinion comes back quite convoluted and different. So if there's an opportunity to somehow establish a team leader concept in the AG's office when they review this, and so that you folks have, again, a primary AG to work with, I think that could help expedite the understanding and intentions, because the land manager is basically at the mercy of the AG. And they're not always in sync, but that's just a thought, maybe into hopefully creating some structure in regards to going through that process with the AG.
So definitely the renewal and the transition of powers the timing is definitely not the greatest.
Well, one thing I learned from the site visit the other day in the work going on in the greenhouses, which is really amazing. There's some incredible plants in there. I've been hunting PTA for at least 15 years, but I'm looking for the plants. I'm looking for other things, but they're plants that I've never ever seen. They're very unusual, obviously very rare. But it was mentioned that you're working on banking the seeds for propagation and experimenting in ways to optimally reproduce those extremely rare plants. Plants, in fact, only exist on PTA lands. Well, if you can expand on that, because that was a whole area of almost basically research that's going on in plant sciences and biology that I had no appreciation for until I made that site visit.
Yeah, Doug, thanks. Yeah, incredible work at the greenhouse. And so they've got a variety of the threatened and endangered plant species in that greenhouse. And then they preserve the seeds in a seed bank and go through the process and to the best way to germinate those seeds to then kind of propagate those species. Yeah, lots of analysis, lots of trial and error and development, and they definitely they've got great relationships with county, state, federal, local partners to share best practices and ideas throughout that process. And they're connected to the seed bank, the Army Seed Bank in Oahu, located on Schofield Barracks, which has over 1 million seeds in it. And so they work together to try to get those plant species off of the endangered list, up to the threatened list, and then off of the threatened list ultimately. And a lot of those plant species are located here at PTA, which is kind of a military bases, actually, in some ways are good areas for plant species because we've got restricted access, it's not being developed and that kind of stuff. So you find a lot of threatened and endangered species on military bases, and then we have active protective measures to continue to preserve them. And so yeah, a lot of really incredible work that contributes to the overall scientific body of knowledge. And the team has recently identified a brand new species, so new species. It's going to be added to the books. We're in the process of finalizing that, located only here at PTA. And it'll be, the species will, an imprint of it and the scientific write-up will be in the Museum of Natural History, the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and in the Bishop Museum in Oahu. So really incredible.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
So this may be common knowledge to everyone else, but I was wondering if you could, I know we can't talk timeline, but can you identify the remaining steps in the process?
So draft environmental impact statement period concludes on June 7th. Then it'll move into the preparation of the final environmental impact statement. So the team will review all the feedback and comments from the draft environmental impact statement period, analyze that, and then develop the final environmental impact statement. That final environmental impact statement goes up the chain of command, gets many, many reviews and many, many looks to the ultimately the Pentagon. And then a decision will be made. The environmental impact statement looks at 4 proposed alternatives: full retention of the 23,000 acres, modified retention, so retaining some of it, but not all of the parcel, limited retention, which is only retaining a small amount to allow for access and those types of things. And then the 4th one is no retention. So analyze the environmental impacts across about 14 different areas of those 4 alternatives. And then what's called a record of decision. So the leadership in the Pentagon will decide. And then based on that record of decision, moves into the real estate negotiation process with the state of Hawaii, pending what was decided. And so that process takes time. You work through that process, because it's leased from the state of Hawaii, and then that lease needs to be approved by the Board of Land and Natural Resources. Whatever the real estate decision is made, there needs to be final approval from that board. And then, you know, we go from there.
Thank you, that helped.
Miles, I wonder, this is Rachel. Do we have an update and I don't know if people are aware of the efforts by Noe and Mahina and others related to this and how those conversations may have an impact to the lease renewal? Does it even, the Kahu'o, I forgot what the name of the process is.
Hi, Rachel. I could talk a little bit about that Pōhakuloa process that Noi Kalipi, who's our civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for the Big Island, and Mahina kind of led. When I got on the ground last March in Hawaii, I started participating in those monthly sessions. And we've actually got one coming up next week. So if you're interested in participating, let me know or reach out to Noi. And I think that would be, you know, really nice. And so the purpose of that is outside of the military, but the military is it's a community-led process. Military is very much an active participant and willing participant and excited to engage, is to foster a dialogue between the military and the community to develop increased, you know, dialogue, increased relationships, increased understanding, and just you know, to kind of work together and meet and talk, as opposed to being you know, on separate sides of a wall, for lack of a better term. So it's been really beneficial to me.
And I think next week's meeting is going to concentrate on VI and the role Pōhakuloa plays in that, and share information about how the aquifers are affected. That should be interesting.
Any other questions? It's a quiet group today. Well, if not, I want to thank our guest speaker. Like I said, I was just that impressed with what I saw in the PTA the other day, and I encourage you, if you have the opportunity, to go check it out and get a deeper understanding of what's occurring there and the importance of what they're achieving on our island economically, but also, as was mentioned, the connections to the community run deep and for a long time. In fact, we had a member of the tour group who trained there back in the 60s. So it goes back a long time. That history is one that I hope is able to perpetuate forward and future land authorization agreements and deepening the relationship between PTA and the community. So I want to thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Cronin, for your service and sharing your mana'o today about what's going on at PTA. And thank everybody for participating. I just got a text. I've got to switch to the region board meeting, so timing is perfect. And we will see you all at a future GAC meeting. At some point, we're going to have a new chair, though, right, Miles?
That's correct. Yep.
One more coming up, but after that, I will hand over to a new chair. So I'll let you know what the next meeting is in 2-3 weeks. So mahalo, everybody.
Mahalo. And
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel.
please reach out, questions, and you're always welcome. Come visit. So mahalo.
Thanks as usual.